All right, and it looks like we are recording. So thank you guys for joining me this evening for our June Listening Club, where we listen to Sign of the Times by Prince. Before we get started on the discussion, I'm going to go through my usual spiel that everybody who has watched these has already heard. But in case you haven't heard, do it anyways. So this is our monthly listening club, but it is one of 3 clubs that we have at Dragonfly Arts. We have 2 monthly clubs, this listening club, as well as a movie club, which we will be doing our recording of that next week. And I will be uploading these onto YouTube at the same time. And then we have a quarterly book club, which meets every 3 months, and we will be discussing monsters next month. So we will have 3 clubs next one. If you would like to find out what the next picks are going to be, I announce them on the first of every month over in our Facebook group, which I have put the link down here at the bottom. We don't just have these clubs there. We are just a group of creatives that talk about being creative and problems and share our work and do all sorts of cool things. If you're in the Los Angeles area, sometimes we do meetups. We have weekly calls on Saturday mornings called Coffee and Creatives. So absolutely please join us and join the discussion. I like having discussions with people. And if you like us and would like to support us, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. It just helps us keep things running and keep things going as smoothly as possible. At this time, pretty much everything that we offer is free to our Facebook group. So join us over on Facebook, support us over on Patreon, join the discussions. We appreciate whatever it is that you can do. And since I am now posting these on the first of the month on our YouTube page, feel free to comment on them. And I will try to get back to you because I mostly just really like talking about things. If you'd like to join future clubs, you can reach out to me on Facebook or reach out to Beckett on Facebook and join the discussions. There's not like a set time. We try to base it on when people who want to join are free. So, yeah, look forward to our next discussions and let me know if you'd like to join us. And so, on that note, let's talk about Prince. So, this is a 1987 album. It's his 9th studio album. It is his first solo album following the disbanding of the Revolution, which was on his previous albums and was also, I think, kind of a departure from like his own studio and things along those lines. So this was, I don't know, an interesting turning point in the time of Prince, which is why I chose this over some of his other albums. Had you guys listened to this album before?
Oh my God. This is my favorite Prince album. So abso-friggin-lutely. Listen to this to death.
So I've never listened to Prince. I know nothing about Prince. This was my first introduction to him. Well, to his music, I know Prince. I just don't know much about like his life or career or anything.
I've probably listened to this album a couple of times over the years, but Prince is not, when I want to listen to something, Prince is rarely the person that if I want to listen to an album, I rarely pull up a Prince album. If I want to hear a particular song, I'll do that. But I don't listen to, generally speaking, don't listen to an album all the way through with him.
I know that this is a pretty small writing because this album, 1, is fairly long, and 2 was initially a record that was 2 records. So the actual track listing was kind of hard to put on here, but was there a song that stood out to you guys that you guys really liked?
Wait, we should get 2 or 3, man. This is like 2 albums.
I mean, it's insane that this is the initial release, and then they had the re-release. I
Oh,
don't
did you
know.
see the collector's
Some
edition
friends.
version of it? It's like 50 tracks. It's
Yeah, they
nuts.
added 60 new tracks onto it.
It's like, oh my God.
Uh, per the note of Susan Rogers, who is the engineer on this album and the engineer for Prince for most of these albums. And I'll probably talk about her a little bit during this call.
Yeah, there's some great interviews with her on the Sunset Sound channel. She's friggin' amazing.
She was one of my teachers at Berkeley.
Oh,
Oh,
serious?
really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I was going to say
interesting.
she's teaching now, but I couldn't tell you where. Is she still at Berkeley?
As far as I'm aware, she was. I mean, I graduated in 2012, so
You gotta
it's been
check out.
15 years.
So you have to check out at least one of those videos. I mean, there's a bunch of them. Just talking about like working with somebody like Prince and stuff. It's fascinating stuff. She's just, she was there.
He has a lot of interesting stories. She's a very interesting person. But
Yeah,
before
no.
we get into that side of things, Tim, did you have a song that stood out to you?
Oh, probably Playing the Sunshine, because it's like the one pure, unadulterated rock and roll track on the album. It doesn't feel like it's a mixture of a whole bunch of stuff. It's just, I love everything about it. But I'm also fond of It's Going to Be a Beautiful Night, because that's just him. That almost sounds like a Parliament Funkadelic track to me.
Yeah. Oh, and Tim, that track, there's a live video of that track that was in heavy rotation because MTV was still around, and it kills. The track is way faster, and them live, and then Sheila E. switches out with Prince, and Prince drums for a while in heels, and it's just like an extravaganza. Highly recommended that live video.
Yeah, I also liked Playing the Sunshine. I liked Sign of the Times too, the titular track, and Hot Thing. That one stood out to me.
My favorite song on this album is Starfish and Coffee, which
Yeah,
is
isn't
actually
that fun? That is so fun.
which is actually the first Prince song I ever heard because he sang it on the Muppets.
See, I feel like because when I was listening to that song in particular, and actually most of this album, it was like, okay, if I had heard this as a kid, it would be very nostalgic. Like I know that 80s sound. Of course, I've heard like Purple Rain, like everybody knows that song. But if I had listened to Prince growing up, then I would love all of this and it would feel all very nostalgic. But because I didn't have that experience, it was like,
Yeah, I also didn't have that experience growing up. I didn't have a lot of Prince around. My parents, not huge Prince fans, so my introduction to him was on the Muppets singing Starfish and Coffee, and it does have a little bit of a nostalgic sense to it.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to narrow it down to 3. So definitely Sign of the Times, because like Prince is a huge influence in the rap community, and I think that tune was kind of the start of it, like it being really, really minimal and stuff. So Sign of the Times, If I Was Your Girlfriend is the second, and my favorite fun track is I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man, like, which I think is just as fun as Starfish and Coffee.
Yeah.
And he's also getting a little bit more mature. He's understanding that all the sexual shenanigans have consequences. So good for him. But just
If I were to pick a third, I would pick that one too. I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man.
yeah. And just a little bit of context. I only saw him twice. I saw him live twice. I saw the Purple Rain tour and I saw this tour, and the difference was just stunning. Purple Rain was like Michael Jackson, Thriller, U2, like it was the biggest thing on the planet, and it was more of an event than it was a great concert, even though it was great. And this album, there's people from the Revolution on this album, and he didn't really get a new band until he toured this album, which is basically Sheila E.'s band, which means most of the band was from Oakland. I saw them in Oakland. It was just completely awesome. But he went from being a guy who had a band that everybody was pretty, equal number of women and men, equal number of black people and white people, and then at this point, he just had a band that was the best musicians he could get. And it, and I can only talk about the live experience because he made this album like he made all of his albums. It's mostly him playing everything, and then people come in and do stuff here and there. But it was, for me, this is like his Beatles White Album, because it's kind of a hot mess. Like if Prince had a producer, there would be a pressure from the label to like make this one album with just the best tracks. But I love it because it's just like it's not fussed over like some of his previous stuff. I mean, he spent 2 years on Purple Rain, and I think that's the only album in his, you know, peak period where he spent that much time. And it's just it's when we all started taking him seriously as a musician. We knew he was an amazing personality and artist and songwriter, but like as a musician, this is when me and all of our buddies like started to go, oh, this, he can really play as well as being a pop star. And, you know, then you could seriously start, you know, using him in the same sentence as comparing him to Joni Mitchell or to Hendrix or Paul McCartney, where he sort of transcended being a pop star. And he was like a legitimate, really, really cool talent, at least among my friends.
I wanted to bring up the personnel on it because for me, this album, and I'm not super well versed in like Prince's discography. I kind of always really wanted to do a deep dive into it because I really respect him. And I would love to like learn more just over the years, like start at the beginning and see where we go. But this album specifically just sounds like an artist that has just been liberated.
Yeah.
It is absolute chaos in a very weirdly coherent way. Like, I also think that like he was at the time building his own studio, but it wasn't finished. And so a lot of the tracks were done with like half the gear.
Mm.
And my understanding was he just kind of went with it and would just record the songs one right after the other without stopping. And it's just him flowing continuously from song to song. But I brought up the personnel just because of how much of this, like he was the primary musician on pretty much every track.
Yeah, but most of his albums were like that, and everybody from the Revolution is on here, but just on maybe not so many tracks.
Right.
But yeah, but I totally agree with that because you listen to his previous albums and he was, you know, it just didn't seem, not that he wasn't having fun, but this by comparison, it just sounds like way more fun. Like he's just kind of, like I say, liberated. The other thing that's interesting, and another analogy to the Beatles' White Album, is that the band was breaking up, right? So the Revolution was kind of fading away. And during the Beatles' White Album, Ringo quit for a while, for a week or two. So so there's like all this turmoil. The Prince has got enough pull that he can release a double album of stuff that's maybe not his best material. And he's just like having fun. I totally agree with that. And seeing him live, Purple Rain was like, you know, very, how do you say, produced, the live tour. This tour was like, he was like a different human being. He was just having, it's just the most fun I ever seen him have on stage.
It's gonna be a, what is that song called? It's gonna be a
Wonderful Night.
Beautiful Night. That one, it sounds like a live recording.
Yeah, I think it is, but the live video, I don't know if you were on the call when I was talking about the live video, but the live video is a different recording. It's like that, you know, R&B Chitlin Circuit version where you play your hit song twice as fast as it is in the recording. But yeah, I think you're right about that. Let me look at that. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were kind of recorded in like one go. So it's not necessarily a live album, but I think it.
Yeah, well, that was the only one that sounded to me like it could have been done live on stage. Like, I think there's even like sounds you can hear an audience in the background, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'd have to look that up. That makes sense.
When you had the personnel on a minute ago, one of the names jumped out at me. The only name that I know aside from Wendy and Lisa and Prince, and that's Claire and Sheena Easton, obviously Claire Fisher at the bottom, who was a big band arranger. He was in his, I think he was in his late 50s about the time he did this. So that's interesting. That the one person who probably has nothing in common with anybody else on this list is a late 58-year-old big band arranger.
Okay, so I actually do have this note on It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night. The live audience on It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night is credited for backing vocals under the name of 6,000 Wonderful Parisians. And it was recorded during his parade tour show in Paris.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because like
a year before.
nothing else on this album is live. So
Yeah, so that's from his tour promoting his previous album.
Hmm.
He recorded the sound of a bunch of the people cheering and added it to this. All right, let me go to my notes. I think
I was going to say, in a certain sense, it feels like a lot of this is live, not necessarily in front of an audience, but it feels like most of the tracks he did not do much massaging on. He just recorded them well, and let go of them.
speaking of Susan Rogers, the funniest thing that I know about this album is the fact that they were building the studio and most of the stuff either they didn't know how it was working or it wasn't fully installed. And so she would regularly record things, realize that part of the tracks were missing because of something going wrong with the equipment. And he would be like, no, I love it. And the most commonly stated one for this would be on the Ballad of Dorothy Parker, where they're missing the entirety of the high end for a part of it. And he was just like, no, I like it.
Yeah. That was going to be my next favorite. I was limited to 3, but yeah, I love that tune.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with both of you. It doesn't, I mean, if you listen to Purple Rain, it's very interesting and very different, but it sounds like they're really heavily producing it, right? He was really focused on getting, an amazing production job on it. And right now on this album, it doesn't feel like he's that worried about it. And that it just seems like he's working fast. Like when I've talked about this before, but when the first time I saw a Van Gogh sunflower painting in person, the way the brush strokes, I think it were trowel strokes actually, but the way the paint was put onto the canvas, you just got the sense that he was moving quickly, right? And then, so this is kind of like the audio version of that. You just get the sense that he's just moving quickly. He's not fussing over things overly much.
Did he use a lot of drum machine in his previous album? Because I feel like the Lynn drum machine freed him up to be able to make this album quicker and without, doing a whole lot of work on it as he might have done previously.
Oh, he used the Lynn drum since it was invented, and he famously, but yeah, all the time. And it was more of like for dance tracks for him, and then he would play drums, acoustic drums, on the other tracks. But yeah, he was using drum machines as soon as drum machines were.
Oh yeah, I wasn't questioning whether he used them. I was questioning how extensively he used them, because this I would have to go back and listen to confirm, but it feels like the vast majority of these tracks are undergirded by the Lynn drum.
So looking through it, it seems like he had it on a few of the songs on the album, but not all of them.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And they're also playing those Simmons electronic drums.
Yes.
Right, which might give it a drum machine sound without actually being a drum machine. But,
and I think because he was the person who was mainly working on this, I think this has more synths than any of his albums that came before it. I know there's a lot of Fairlight. I know there's a lot of Lynn.
Under-
You're saying
under-
a lot of synths, right? A lot of keyboards, not so much guitar. Is that
yeah,
what you're
not
saying?
so much guitar.
Unrelated question: are there gold nails on his gloves in this photo?
It looks like it.
I do not know.
I mean, you gotta love Prince's style.
It's true.
Mhm.
Iconic.
He's one of those people where, like, even if you don't know his music, if you're shown a photo of him, you knew exactly who he is.
Mm.
Like I said, the only song I knew before was Purple Rain.
Which is his most famous song, I believe. So
You know, I think that that can also be said about his songwriting and his sound. I always know a Prince. It doesn't matter who is performing it. I always know a fucking Prince tune when I hear it. There are certain things of his style that are just earmarks, and of course when he's doing his stuff, no matter this whole album, a lot of it sounds like homage to me to styles from the 70s and the early 80s and even 50s and 60s in a couple of tracks. And yet he never just does an homage. He takes the style and he makes it Prince-like.
Yeah.
So that you still know it's him. You could say that's an homage, but that's definitely Prince doing that homage.
Yeah, I would totally agree with the thing about that he's looking back at classic R&B in a way that he hadn't really done before, right? What's the name of the last track? The
Sure.
yeah, I think it's Adore.
Door. That's like, for him, that's very straight R&B. Teddy Pendergrass could have done that, you know? And he had done a lot of that before. And yes, he's making it sound like Prince, but I think he would have, my sense is he didn't have it on his big albums. I mean, 1999 kind of sold a lot, but like, Purple Rain was, off the charts. And his albums since then, I kind of got the sense he would be afraid to do that, or didn't feel, he wouldn't allow himself to do that. And the fact that he does that in more than one place on this album is, I think, it's another way of him loosening up, of like, I'm going to do a classic R&B thing, and I'm going to be okay with that.
I wanted to look up, because I know he wrote so many songs during this time frame that it could easily be several albums, which is a part of what the re-released was and why it had like 60 tracks on it.
That's crazy.
But I think he canceled 2 albums because of the dissolution of the Revolution, Dream Factory and Crystal Ball.
But those morphed into this, right? Or no?
But I know that Sign of the Times was supposed to be on one of them, and I don't know about the rest of the songs.
Yeah. But you know what's funny about that is he released an album every year. He released an album the year before this album and an album the year after this album.
Yes.
So yeah, he's doing all that, but he's still got an album a year, right? Which I didn't realize that. Well, maybe at the time it didn't seem strange, but like now, if he discarded 2 albums and he's still releasing an album a year, he's just being insanely productive, right? Just doing.
I think he just let the muses of music just possess him at times.
There you go. Well, this might be, well, I mean, to me, this is my favorite album of his, and that might be the peak period for him for that.
Yeah, that being said, this feels like there's a bit of filler on here that didn't. I think I think Rebecca, you said you described this album as a hot mess. If Warner Brothers hadn't stepped in and allowed him to make a triple album, it would have been an even bigger hot mess, I think. Because even Prince has mediocre tunes or weak tunes on occasion. And I just felt like this album was still a little loose, but just tight enough. I would imagine that this album would have fallen apart as an album if it had gone to three records instead of cutting it down to 2. I think Warner Brothers was smart on that point.
And Tim, on this album, I took notes on every track, and even some of the the weaker songs, there's always something like really, really cool on there. Like Hot Thing had this really cool synth line, at the intro, Forever in Your Life, like when we got to the outro, all of a sudden this acoustic guitar shows up. So like even the sort of not best tunes, there's something really cool on there. Strange Relationship was it's such a great dance tune, but it might have not made, one of the previous 3 albums, if he was just doing a single.
I agree. Even Prince's throwaways are more interesting than other people's best tunes.
Yeah.
That's what kind of makes him Prince.
I wish that I had put the actual album cover as one of these, because I also love the album cover, and I feel like it's such a
This is the album cover, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the album cover.
Yeah, that's it.
I know, because it was the one point in my life where I had the same drum kit as Sheila E., although mine was much, much smaller.
Did you use this as like the inspiration for your kit?
No, Steve Jordan was. But this picture, when this came out, there was like, I don't know if it was meant to be a little bit of a scandal, but there was this thing like, is that Prince in the picture? And it's not. It's one of his female backup singers dressed up as him.
So that is from the single release of Sign of the Times.
This?
No, the picture that you're thinking of, where it's a woman holding a heart in front of her face.
No. This picture, this isn't him. This is Kat dressed up as him.
Yeah. Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the single for it was a woman holding a heart in front of her face, and the big scandal at the time was people thought it was Prince in drag.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh boy, the 80s.
Scandal.
Which honestly would have fit very well with Prince, especially during this time frame.
Yeah,
Well,
he's very drag coded anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. He used to wear lingerie live, and he famously opened here in LA. He opened really early days for the Rolling Stones in LA and got booed off the stage, because Rolling Stones fans will do that for just about everybody. And then he quit the tour, and then they got him to come back and did one more show, and then he quit the tour again. But, a man wearing high heels and lingerie in front of a crowd of Rolling Stones fans, which are, in my limited experience, not the most enlightened flans on the planet. Yeah, you could definitely see that, that happening. So, yeah.
That thing that happened at Dodger Stadium was so fucking wrong. I don't care how you felt about Prince and what happened at Dodger Stadium. That was terrible.
Wait, are you talking about the same show I'm talking about?
Oh, I don't know. I'm talking about the one where he opened for the Rolling Stones back in the back in the 80s.
Yeah, but their fans are just like that. I've only seen them once, and I love them as a band, but I don't want to spend time with their fans. And Living Colour opened the show that I went to. Living Colour, who were just like an amazing band, and just booed off the stage because they're black.
Really?
Oh God!
I mean,
yeah.
Rolling Stones fans
going boom.
They strike me as very kind of like MAGA coded.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know what it is, but it was just, we had good seats and it sounded great, and I love seeing Charlie and stuff, but it's just like, I would like to see them. I would just not want to see them with their audience. But I mean, famously, like Rolling Stones audiences are famously hard on the opening acts, or at least they were back then. Maybe they've aged and they're less.
Well, I mean, I think SRV was one of the opening acts for the show as well. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, it was George Thorogood, not Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah, they love George Thorogood, I guess.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I think that says all you need to say about Rolling Stones fans. Prefer George Thorogood to Prince. Okay, great. We got you.
To move back to the album.
Yeah. Digression. We were talking about Prince, though.
We were talking about Prince. Let's see. I wanted to talk about the production of the album because it is a little bit chaotic, which I guess has to do with the arranging of the album more so than anything else. It kind of just feels like it's layer on top of layer on top of layer.
See, I didn't feel that way.
Are you talking about the track listing or the mix?
The not necessarily the arrangement.
Oh, I was getting it from the performances. Like the performances are kind of loose and not, there's overdubbing, but you don't get the sense that, he did the guitar rhythm track, 4 or 5 times. It was just down once, I'm on to the next. Now he's a
Yeah.
good enough musician where he can do that, but on previous albums, you kind of like, he probably fussed over that a bit, right? Compared to this, where it was just, here's the track, here's the track, here's the track. And then Susan Rogers is like, doing everything I can't even imagine doing. When you read the stories about what it was like to be the engineer for Prince, because nobody produces Prince, and it's literally you're the engineer and he's the artist, and he's just going around to the different instrument. They would have all the instruments in a semicircle in the studio. And the fact, and on top of that, the gear's not working. That must have been the most stressful thing. But it seems like, he goes to Lindrum, he's got that down, goes to keyboards, gets that down, goes to the drum kit or whatever, and he's just going bang, 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 bang. No second takes, it feels like, right? Some of the tracks, it just sounds like did it once and that was it, and we're going to keep it. And that's what, to me, does that. But when you say the arrangement, it didn't strike me like that. I'd have to.
I think you are correct in saying the same thing that I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Of
Violent agreement.
Yeah, I just didn't have like the right words. I need to work on my vocabulary.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if you thought that enhanced the emotionalness of it, or do you think it detracted from it?
Oh, well, for me, I loved it, but I like albums like that are more human, and yeah, and it was also good to see. You always want to see your favorite artist, like you want to, the Beatles. Sgt. Pepper is great, yeah, but the White Album is like 4 people, humans in a room making music, and this feels like the same thing. Purple Rain is awesome, but it's also nice to hear. I mean, it's mostly just him in a room. But you like to hear like unfussy stuff with little mistakes here and there.
It does feel a little bit unpolished, which didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, when I'm thinking about a lot of his work, most of the music always sounds very cool or cold to me. Not the vocals. The vocals always sound hot, warm, passionate, but the music always sounds relatively cold to me, which is probably why I don't listen to a whole lot of Prince. There's something a little bit warmer about this because it does feel like, he didn't fuss over it as much as I hear in his other material that I've listened to. This album feels warmer than a lot of the stuff that I've heard, but his music without vocals always feels very cold to me.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned his vocals, like on other albums, the music might be cold, but the vocal makes it how do you say, warmer, for lack of a better term. The place that I noticed where he's not being fussy about the layering of the tracks is his voice, right? He's like he's doing weird things to his voice. There's some tracks he must have had a cold and he kept it. He intentionally made it sound like he had a cold or something.
No,
And
he made up an alter ego.
there you go, right? But it also, I don't know, it just sounds like, even with the vocal tracks, that he's just not really being fussy. And there's stuff that's stacked and it's amazing stack, but I bet you if you look at my sense is looking at the individual tracks where he's stacking harmonies and stuff, like it's probably kind of messy, but you stack them all up and he's an awesome singer and it sounds fine, but yeah, it's interesting what you say about the music being cold, and I think of Sign of the Times as an evolution of what he did with When Doves Cry. And I don't know if that's a good example, but Sign of the Times is much more street than When Doves Cry, which is a little more precious, even though it's kind of the same minimalist arranging style. That
When
track.
Doves Cry, When Doves Cry feels very produced, parenthetical overproduced to
and
me.
It was. I think he spent a ton of time on that.
Yeah. And this album, I don't hear anything that feels overproduced the way. And that's not a judgment on When Doves Cry. It's just for me a statement of what I hear. This does not. I don't think I heard anything on this album that feels overproduced in that way.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mm.
Mm, mm, mm.
Well, that was a conversation killer.
Sorry,
Oh.
I have to read notes.
I should have agreed. So, you visual artists, tell me how these colors work. He's got a purple guitar, he's got an aqua jacket, and an orange shirt. To me, it works, but man, if I did that,
Personality, man.
And
Switch
Prince is nothing if not that. Like just personality bleeding through. Like the colors are very bold and very intentionally so. So he's definitely sending a message.
yeah, crazy.
We didn't talk about the lyrics of this album at all.
Oh, I alluded to it briefly when I was talking about I could never take the place of your man. It's sort of like Prince being more mature. I'm the last person to notice lyrics, but even back when this came out, I kind of got the sense that he's growing up and being a little less sex obsessed and a little bit more of a grown up adult human being, right? As opposed to a pop star that's obsessed with sex. And I noticed his lyrics in a way I hadn't really noticed them before, but I'm the worst judge of lyrics because I'm usually the last person to notice the lyrics.
Well, I mean, we opened with Sign of the Times, which is very bleak and very socially heavy and an interesting place for a Prince album to begin.
Yeah, and I don't think my sense of it at the time is that he was being kind of political sort of for the first time, or at least overtly political. And that's why I mentioned this. It kind of reminded me of a Curtis Mayfield thing where Curtis Mayfield would be doing things that were pretty politically adjacent and you wouldn't miss that it was. And certainly none of his singles were as political minded as this one. And this, if I'm remembering right, this was the first single, right?
Yeah.
So that was intention and he led with it. But the rest of the album is not like that, unless I'm just missing something really massive. This is a fun album, but he hadn't done anything quite like Sign of the Times lyrically before. And if I remember right, it was a cousin of his or somebody, like the line about, last year he was smoking pot and now he's doing heroin. That was about somebody related to him in Minneapolis. I think that was a true story. So that aspect of it. And I think that's when.
Yeah, lyrically, the one that stood out to me was The Cross, because I was trying to figure out what the subtext of it was. It felt tongue in cheek to me, but I'm not.
I thought it was really religious. He did have a period where he went really hard on religion, just like Dylan
Really?
did.
See, because I was curious about that.
But it wasn't this period. It was later.
Yeah,
he got married at one point, right? So, but yeah, what's funny about The Cross? The first time I ever wrote lyrics to another melody was to that melody. It might have been the last time I did that. But yeah, I kind of took it literally as a gospel adjacent thing. I don't know how y'all feel.
Yeah, it's straight gospel.
I always had this sense of him. I mean, always from the beginning had this sense of him as being deeply religious.
Well, and see, because I didn't know anything about him or his life or like his journey with, career wise or personal or anything like that. So I wasn't sure. And so I think I let my own judgment color the way the lyrics came across to me, which was ironic.
Yeah.
There's such a difference and such a weird juxtaposition between some of these songs because you have The Cross, but you also have Housequake and If I Was Your Girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why, and kind of knowing how flamboyant Prince was, that's why I didn't really read into it as an authentic like representation of gospel.
I
Yeah.
think and as a white guy, judging this from the outside, I think from what my understanding of Black culture over history is that there is not, there is a not an sex is not as oh my God thing like it is with white Christians over history. There was always I always had this sense that there was something there was an equation, not an equation, but there wasn't sensuality was something that was connected to God in a way that we don't see in white Christian cults. And that's not saying that Black Christianity was a cult, but I think that the many different sects of Christianity and white Christianity starts to look very cult-like. And there was this aversion to sex, except behind closed doors, where they were doing all that freaky shit, but they never wanted to be upfront about it. And we see in Black music very early on in R&B, as early as the 30s, we see a sexuality being coded into the music, as even in the blues. So I don't think that the way we view Prince's sexuality and sensuousness, or whatever you want to call it, I don't think that is diametrically opposed to his Christianity.
No, and I'm not saying that it is.
No, I
So-
wasn't saying you were, but I think how a lot of white people look at it, that is a conundrum for them. That I think that within Black culture, that all makes perfect sense.
I don't know. I just wasn't sure.
So
Well,
for Prince specifically, in interviews, he has stated that sexual pleasure is a gift from God.
Oh well, there you go.
So
Yeah.
that is his viewpoint on it, and probably why these mix together so well, because he does mention God in a lot of his songs, like
Yeah.
most of the time just in passing. But it is like this weird thing with his lyrics where it doesn't feel out of place, and I think it's because it comes so naturally to him that he has no problems with it whatsoever. And so there's no hesitation, there's nothing along those lines. And I feel like whenever I listen to Prince, I feel like I'm along for the ride and I'm experiencing what he's experiencing.
Well, and
Yeah.
if that's the case, then it's probably coming from not a place of like, I need to perform this for people. It's an authentic inner belief of his.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think of it as, in terms of the influence of religious culture, definitely gospel music has informed his singing. But I also felt that he was one of those first people who had a high profile that were very spiritual, but weren't connected with the church, Like Stevie Wonder was always very connected with the church, but Prince, I think he was real spiritual. I don't think the church would have welcomed him because I think it's hard to overestimate how controversial his very sexual overtones in the music and the lyrics were, right? And I'm sure it didn't matter if it was Black church or white church in the 80s, Prince was like, what he was doing in terms of discussing sex overtly would have been just like, whoa, dude. But I think he was like Tim said, he thinks it's a blessing from God, so that he always had a spirituality that didn't align with whatever the popular church, whether it was Black church or white church, went with. And I agree with Tim that the Black church has less problem with sex than the white church, but Prince was so outside the norm in the 80s that I think everybody would have really struggled with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have enough highly religious Black friends.
I also get
in
the
that-
feeling that Prince does not care about your opinions of him.
Oh
Who
God, no.
does not?
No.
In that, I
But
was
when
thinking
when I was bringing up lyrics specifically, I was actually more interested in Sign of the Times because I'm not super familiar with his discography, but I'm not sure there's many other political songs in his discography. So it kind of feels like it's like out of nowhere and feels super heavy as like a title track. And I don't know how political he was like in his day-to-day life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question. And I mean, this is kind of the last Prince album that I paid a lot of attention to. After this, it was kind of more just whatever the hits were. But I couldn't name, I mean, if you said, name me a political Prince song, I would have immediately gone to this. And then it's like, okay, name me a second one. It's like, I don't know. It just doesn't come to mind. But I only listened to 1999 Purple Rain. I had to listen to all the time because I was in a record store. And this one really, really heavily.
I'm looking at the lyrics right now, and I don't know. I think calling it political is overly general. It's
Yes.
definitely it's a social issue tune.
Yes.
Very akin to the kind of stuff that as Miguel pointed out, the kind of stuff that Curtis Mayfield was writing in the early 70s. Yeah, it's a great lyric. It really is.
I'm also looking up what other albums were released in 1987.
I can't say that I paid that much attention to the lyrics as I was listening to it. I'd have to listen to it again.
He's not an artist where I listen to the lyrics a lot.
Really?
It kind of feels like a whole thing that I'm listening to, and I don't specifically listen to the lyrics in that scenario.
Except Starfish and Coffee.
Even Starfish and Coffee.
Really?
I don't like the song because of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Although the lyrics are interesting. It's based on a true story that his girlfriend at the time was telling about a girl that she knew.
There you go.
When she was in elementary school. So it was her and her twin sister telling him a story from their childhood, and he wrote a song about this girl that they just thought was weird.
The lyrics are very interesting.
I always got the impression from Prince that he just is going with it. I don't think he thinks about what's next. I get the feeling that this is all just like coming out of his mouth in real time.
Every time, so I agree with you. What is the word for, every time I hear something like Starfish and Coffee, bacon and eggs and ham or whatever it is, I'm just thinking, oh, this is some sexual double entendre that I just don't know about, right? But it might just be just like complete free association.
So as the story goes,
Starfish kind of codes that way.
Yeah, as the story goes, there was a weird girl in his girlfriend's class when they were kids, and she asked why she was always holding on to her lunchbox or what she had for breakfast, and she said starfish and pee-pee. And Prince went, well, I can't say pee-pee in a song.
He can't.
And I'm not joking. That's the actual story behind this song.
Prince is saying a lot of things in song worse than pee-pee, but okay.
Well, that lends the possibility for Starfish being what, the way it codes.
Yeah.
Ew.
I still love the idea of Prince on the not the Muppets you said he was on Sesame Street, right?
No, Muppets.
Oh, he's on the Muppet Show. Oh man, I can't believe I haven't seen that. That would be awesome.
I also thought it was Sesame Street when I was going back through my mind, and I had to look it up, and I was also surprised that it was the Muppets. But again, I watched this when I was a child, so
yeah. I mean, it's they're both Muppets. It's just they have different names of the shows.
So some of the big hits of the year when this came out: "I Want to Dance with Somebody," Whitney Houston, "Never Gonna Give You Up," Rick Astley.
Ah.
A whole bunch of bad 80s pop.
"Faith" by George Michael.
Well, there you go. There's a decent tune.
That's a cool tune.
"With or Without You" by U2.
This is the
Better than
same.
better than the first two.
This is the same year as Joshua Tree. That's weird.
Yeah.
Joshua
Crazy.
Tree
That's
beat
amazing.
it for album of the year at the Grammys.
Hmm.
That's
I
I
another.
did not realize that came out in 87.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I'm also surprised, but I guess it makes sense because they were really young when they first started out. So yeah.
It always comes to mind as a 90s album to me.
I mean, when we
Oh,
think
Joshua
about it,
Tree. Oh,
if you think about it, is Joshua Tree really a better album than this one?
is Joshua Tree a better?
Better.
I think it has a higher percentage of really good songs. But I mean, it's like apples and oranges, man. Comparing U2 to Prince is just like, well,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. Also, when it comes to this album, I don't think of specific songs on this album, to be completely honest.
I know it's kind of in a way a vibe, right? As opposed to a song album. There's song albums and the songs are great and they're wonderfully produced, and then there's vibe albums where,
Well,
like
when I
Kid
was like
by
trying
Radiohead.
to pick a Prince album, I was like, oh, I want to pick this album, but I don't really know many of the singles on this album. Like when I think of Prince, it's not these songs.
Right.
Well,
I mean, I feel like Prince is more of a vibe than anything.
It's
Like-
true.
Especially being that I am not very familiar with his music. This was my first time actually sitting down and listening to it. Like I already kind of know what he's about though, because he's so esoteric and vibey, just his whole thing.
Mhm.
So, in the sense of, is it a better album? I don't think it's a better album, but I do think it might have better songs.
I don't think you can compare the two.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, Grammy voters were comparing the two, and they said that Joshua Tree is a better album than Sign of the
Oh,
Times.
I see.
Yeah, but okay. Well, I mean, it's a Grammy voters, but like Joshua Tree was the best thing by far U2 had done to that point. This was not the best thing by far Prince had done to this point, right? He was down from his how do you say sales peak by a
Right.
couple of years, and there was only, I think, You Got the Look was the only big single. I mean, that single that sold a lot. I think Sign of the Times was very memorable, but I don't think it sold a lot. So I don't think
No,
you have
and
a
in
big
fact,
single up here.
in fact, one of the reasons why this album exists is because of the falling sales in Prince's records. It was what kind of led to the revolution, like disbanding. It's why he had his album scrapped. It's why they had to limit the number of songs on the album, which this is still a very long album for limiting songs.
Yeah.
I didn't check how long the remaster was. I should look that up.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
in
it's-
retrospect, and I think the songwriting on Joshua Tree is very, very good. I really do. But in retrospect, it just feels like this, even with my reservations, this feels like a far more interesting album than Joshua Tree.
It's 7 hours, 30 minutes.
What
Wait.
is?
What's
The-
anyways?
The Super Deluxe re-release.
Oh, yeah. God, it's a monstrosity. Yeah.
That's too long. No album should be that long.
Yeah, that'll
Ever.
put you up playing box sets forever. It's like, oh Jesus. Yeah.
I mean, Miguel, I'm because I know you know Joshua Tree really well. Do you feel that's a more interesting album than this album?
I listened to it too much. I was like working in a record store where it was like you had to stop people from playing it. Do not play that album again, right?
Well, Joshua Tree.
But I think the Grammy, well, number one, it's Grammy voters. It's not what people in America think. It's what the Grammy voters think. And it was U2's big achievement up until that point. They were bursting onto the scene. Prince was 4 albums past Purple Rain.
Yeah, I was really not asking in reference to the Grammy voters, just in terms of looking at it in retrospect. Looking at
well,
it from where
in
we
that
are
case, I
today.
think it's got more great songs on it than this does.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's comparing Prince and U2. It's like comparing James Brown and the Beatles. It's sort of like,
Sure.
All right. Well, we are coming up on an hour here, so Was there any final thoughts that anyone had before we closed out for the evening?
Don't forget to check out the Beautiful Night live video. So fun.
I had one, but I lost it.
You'll have to write it in the comments when I upload the video.
Yeah, I guess so.
Beckett, any final thoughts for the evening?
No.
All right. So on that note, I think I'm going to end the stream. First, I'm going to cough a little bit. But thank you guys for joining me this evening, and I hope to catch you on the next one.
Peace.